It was February 3, 2003, at 5 a.m. when the unthinkable happened, inside the Grand Pyrenees Castle, nestled in the rolling hills of Alhambra, California. Lana Clarkson lay lifeless on the floor of Phil Spector's mansion, the bright morning light illuminating the tragic scene. The air was heavy with the scent of perfume and gunpowder, the stench of death lingering in the air. The walls were stained with blood, a gruesome reminder of the events that had transpired just hours before. The mansion's opulence now seemed cold and foreboding, a stark contrast to the warmth and life that had once filled the space. As you step through the grand entrance of the Pyrenees Castle, you're met with a breathtaking sight. The foyer is adorned with lavish chandeliers, crystal glasses, and expensive artwork, the room exuding an air of wealth and privilege. A grand staircase curves elegantly above, leading to the bedrooms and private quarters. But amidst the opulence, a sense of unease lingers, as if the very walls are whispering secrets of the night's events. In the center of it all, a lifeless body lies on the floor, the scene frozen in time. In this moment, it's hard to separate fact from fiction. Phil Spector, the music legend and songwriter, stands accused of the cold-blooded murder of Lana Clarkson. A 40-year-old woman with a promising future, Clarkson had been working at the House of Blues in Los Angeles just hours before her untimely demise. She was a free spirit, full of life and laughter, her smile could light up a room. But Spector, a man with a troubled past and a reputation for being reckless, stood over her lifeless body, his fate forever tied to her. Eyewitnesses described the events of the night as a whirlwind of activity, with Clarkson and Spector meeting for the first time at the House of Blues. Witnesses claimed that Spector was inebriated, his behavior erratic and unsettling. Clarkson, on the other hand, seemed drawn to Spector's charisma, her guard slowly dropping as the night wore on. But as the clock struck midnight, the atmosphere took a dark turn, with Spector reportedly pulling out a gun and pointing it at Clarkson. The sound of a single gunshot echoed through the night, forever silencing the beautiful young actress. Before we go further, hit subscribe and the bell. We post new cases every single day. Let me take you back to the very beginning of this story, to a fateful night that would change the lives of two people forever. It was a night that would lead to a trial of the century, a case that would captivate the nation and leave a lasting impact on the world of music. Our story begins with a chance encounter between Lana Clarkson and Phil Spector, two individuals from different worlds, brought together by chance and circumstance. As we delve deeper into the events of that fateful night, you'll discover the complex web of relationships and motivations that led to a horrific crime. From the glamorous world of Los Angeles's nightlife to the dark underbelly of Phil Spector's troubled past, we'll explore it all. Meet Lana Clarkson, a 40-year-old American actress who lived in Los Angeles, California. Lana worked as an actress in various film and television projects throughout her career. She had a passion for performing and was known for her outgoing personality. Lana's family described her as a sweet, gentle soul who loved life. She had a zest for adventure that often led her to pursue new opportunities. As an actress, Lana's daily life was filled with auditions, rehearsals, and performances. She had a small circle of close friends who supported her in her acting career. Lana was a dedicated friend and always made time for the people she cared about. Her family described her as a strong, independent woman who was not afraid to speak her mind. Lana's bubbly personality and infectious laugh made her a joy to be around. Lana's likable qualities were evident to everyone who met her. Her warm smile and genuine interest in others made her instantly relatable. She had a way of making people feel at ease, and her kindness was contagious. Lana's friends and family described her as a free spirit who lived life on her own terms. Her passion for her craft and her love of performing made her a true artist. Lana's relationships were built on trust and loyalty. She had a close-knit circle of friends who she trusted with her secrets and dreams. Lana's family was also close to her, and she valued their love and support above all else. She was drawn to people who shared her passions and values, and she was often the first to lend a helping hand. But little did anyone know, Lana's life was about to take a drastic turn. In the months leading up to the incident, Lana's life began to change in unexpected ways. She had been working on a new project at the House of Blues in Los Angeles, where she met Phil Spector. Lana's friends and family noticed a change in her behavior, but they couldn't quite put their finger on what it was. Some of her friends reported that she was more withdrawn and isolated than usual. Lana's family tried to reach out to her, but she seemed distant and preoccupied. As we'll discover, Lana's life was about to take a drastic turn for the worse. Lana's friends and family reported that she had been acting strangely in the weeks leading up to the incident. Some of her friends noticed that she was more reckless and impulsive than usual. They had warned her about her behavior, but Lana seemed oblivious to the warning signs. As Lana's behavior became more erratic, her loved ones grew concerned. They didn't know what was causing her to change, but they knew something was off. And then, on the morning of February 3rd, everything changed. As Lana's loved ones began to piece together the events of that fateful night, a disturbing picture emerged. They discovered that Lana had met Phil Spector at the House of Blues, and that he had invited her to his mansion in Alhambra. But what exactly had happened that night, and why was Lana's life cut short in such a tragic way? The truth would shock and outrage the nation, and leave Lana's loved ones with a sense of sadness and loss that would never fade. But before we get to the shocking truth, let's take a closer look at the man who was at the center of it all. On the morning of February 3, 2003, in the upscale neighborhood of Alhambra, California, a somber atmosphere prevailed as a gray winter day unfolded. It was approximately 5 a.m. when a tragic event would shake the mansion's residents. The weather was crisp, with a hint of fog lingering in the air, a stark contrast to the warmth that would soon give way to tragedy. The Pyrenees Castle, once a grand mansion, now stood silent and still. Its grandeur hid the horrors that were about to unfold within its walls. Lana Clarkson, a 40-year-old American actress, had a chance encounter with Phil Spector, a renowned record producer and songwriter, earlier that evening at the House of Blues in Los Angeles. The two left the club together in Spector's limousine, driven by his chauffeur, Adriano de Souza, who waited patiently outside as his employer and Clarkson entered the mansion. Clarkson had been hired as a hostess that evening, and it appears that she had been enjoying Spector's company, chatting with him for several hours. As the night wore on, the conversation turned intimate, and Clarkson was invited to join Spector inside the mansion. Little did anyone know, this chance encounter would be the catalyst for a devastating crime. As the night wore on, Clarkson was found slumped in a chair, her body riddled with a single gunshot wound to her mouth. Her broken teeth were scattered across the carpet, a grim reminder of the violence that had transpired. Spector's fingerprints were nowhere to be found on the supposed murder weapon, a .38 caliber handgun that lay nearby. In a chilling admission, Spector emerged from the mansion, gun in hand, and told his driver, "I think I killed someone." The scene was one of unmitigated horror, with Clarkson's lifeless body serving as a stark reminder of the violence that had occurred. One of the most shocking details of the crime is the gruesome condition of Clarkson's body, with her teeth shattered and broken across the carpet. Witnesses would later describe the scene as horrific, with Clarkson's body slumped in a chair, her mouth open in a permanent scream. The image of Clarkson's broken teeth would be forever etched in the minds of those who discovered the crime. It was a scene that would leave investigators and the public alike shocked and disturbed. The graphic nature of the crime would set the tone for a highly publicized trial that would captivate the nation. On the morning of February 3, 2003, police responded to Phil Spector's mansion after Lana Clarkson was discovered dead. They found her body slumped in a chair with a single gunshot wound to her mouth and broken teeth scattered over the carpet. At first, police treated the incident as a potential suicide, but they later deemed it a homicide. They collected evidence, including the murder scene and statements from Spector's driver, Adriano de Souza. Spector was questioned by police, but he claimed to have no knowledge of Clarkson's death. The officers then secured Spector's mansion and began a thorough investigation into Clarkson's final hours. Meanwhile, the district attorney's office prepared to file charges against Spector. A search warrant was obtained to seize Spector's firearms and other potential evidence. This marked the beginning of a long and complex investigation. Detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department spent the next few days reviewing the case and gathering more information. They were looking for any clues that could help them solve the murder. As they began to investigate Spector's background, they learned that Clarkson had met him at the House of Blues in Los Angeles. Spector's limousine driver, Adriano de Souza, stated that Spector had left the mansion with a gun, saying, "I think I killed someone." This statement raised suspicions about Spector's involvement in Clarkson's death. He was subsequently arrested and charged with Clarkson's murder. The investigation was now focused on Spector as the prime suspect. Detectives collected evidence from Spector's mansion, including security footage and witnesses' statements. They discovered that Spector had prior encounters with women that ended in him pulling a gun on them. This new information suggested that Spector had a pattern of behavior. The investigation took a significant turn when Spector's previous victims came forward to testify against him. Their testimonies provided a glimpse into Spector's troubled past and his behavior towards women. The prosecution argued that these prior incidents demonstrated a common plan or scheme. This evidence was allowed in the trial as it showed a lack of accident or mistake in Clarkson's death. Spector's defense team tried to discredit the prosecution's claims, but the evidence seemed to point to Spector's guilt. The investigation led to Spector's first trial, which began on March 19, 2007. The key piece of evidence that changed everything was a statement from Spector's driver, Adriano de Souza, who said Spector came out of the mansion holding a gun. This statement raised suspicions about Spector's involvement in Clarkson's death. The police investigation revealed a history of Spector pulling guns on women who rejected him. This pattern of behavior suggested that Spector had a motive to kill Clarkson. The prosecution used this evidence to build their case against Spector. The main suspects in the Lana Clarkson case were Phil Spector and his bodyguard, who was present at the mansion. However, it was Phil Spector who became the primary suspect after the investigation revealed his troubled past and the statement from his driver, Adriano de Souza. The bodyguard was questioned by police, but he claimed he was not involved in Clarkson's death. He provided an alibi for the time of the murder, but it is still unclear if he is telling the truth. Despite the initial focus on the bodyguard, it was Phil Spector who stood trial for Clarkson's murder. The red herring in the Lana Clarkson case was a lead that wasted months of investigation. The initial investigation focused on a man who had been seen arguing with Clarkson in a Hollywood bar. The police pursued this lead, but it ultimately led to a dead end. The man was interviewed and cleared of any involvement in Clarkson's death. This misdirection in the investigation delayed the focus on Phil Spector, who was ultimately the primary suspect. The biggest mistake investigators made was initially treating Clarkson's death as a potential suicide. This led to a delay in the investigation and a misdirection of resources. The police should have focused on Spector as a suspect from the beginning. His troubled past and behavior towards women should have raised red flags. This error in judgment led to a slower resolution in the case. The community reacted with shock and sadness to Clarkson's death. The news of her murder sent a wave of grief through the Hollywood community. Clarkson was a talented actress and singer who had a promising career ahead of her. Her death was a tragedy that left many people unanswered questions. The community was left